So for this case, you have ES, a 28-year-old male, right-handed with no known comorbidities, who came to the outpatient clinic with a chief complaint of recurrent severe headaches. The informant is the patient himself with very good reliability. So for the HPI, he presents with recurrent severe headaches accompanied by visual disturbances and nausea over the past year. The headache lasts for around 4 to 72 hours, characterized as throbbing, unilateral, usually on the right side, and aggravated by physical activity. He reports that his headaches are often preceded by an aura or visual disturbances that lasts for about 20 minutes, characterized by flickering lights and zigzag lines in his visual field. Mentions nausea and sensitivity to light and sound during the headache episodes, and that these episodes tend to occur during times of stress or after prolonged screen time at work. Or past
Okay,
medical.
sorry. Let me just interject. Let me just interrupt a bit, Ms. Deliasa. We'll stop here. Go back one slide. All right. With this history, if you are faced with a patient coming in with this HPI, this chief complaint and HPI, what else do you want to know? Are you satisfied with his history? What else, what other information would you want to ask the patient? Anyone from the class can participate. What else do you want to be clarified on regarding the headache? So it tells you the site of the headache, no? Um, onset. How is the onset of the headache? Is it more acute, subacute, chronic?
If I may po daw.
Yes, good. Yeah.
You mentioned po yung onset po and then we should also ask the patient to further specify the frequency po, like actual numbers, like how many per month, for example,
Correct.
and
Okay.
the pattern, tama ba?
Mm-hmm.
And the duration if all attacks are of the same duration. And
Okay.
triggers, ayan, triggers.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So for the history that you've been given, like I said, na 4 to 72 hours, no? It seems like this is more an acute episodic type, no? But it doesn't really, does it say how frequent it happens? Parang hindi, no? Tama? It doesn't say. Yes, go ahead. Someone unmuted the mic.
Doc, I think I would ask also regarding the alleviating factors, if uh, what the patient do to alleviate or to alleviate the pain that
Correct.
the patient experiences.
Okay, so you can ask about medications that the patient have tried in the past, no? Or if just sleeping it out would relieve, no? Or alleviate the pain, no? What else? Sige pa. What else would you want to know? Ano pa yung kulang sa history? You'd also want to ask, mayroon bang parang, apart from here na parang may triggers, no? Parang there's a brief mention that episodes would occur in times of stress or prolonged screen times. It would also be good to ask if, say, there are certain types of food that would trigger the the events, no? If sleep deprivation would be a known trigger, no? And what would be the timing? Is it mostly in the morning? Does he wake up with headache, no? Uh, as soon as he wakes up, or does it happen late in the afternoon, no? And in terms of pain score, parang there was nothing mentioned here. Severe headache lang. But it would be good to quantify. No, you ask the patient what is the pain score, how bad is the headache when you get the headaches. No? From 0 to 10, how bad is it? No? So what else? Ano pa yung gusto niyong malaman? What you should be asking? So you ask for any associated symptoms. You try to elicit red flags already, just in the history. No, does the are there any other associated symptoms such as problems with speech, double vision, um, weakness on any one side? No, are there any other areas of localized pain? Are there any other systemic symptoms at the time that the patient would have episodes of headache? No? So these are important to ask, and also ask whether or not these headache events are worsened, no, by exertion, say coughing, lifting, no, bending. No, those are important things to ask because you want to check during these episodes, would an increased ICP, no, by doing the Valsalva maneuver, would that exacerbate the headache? Okay? So, because dapat headache pa lang, just by with a headache history, you're able to, in your mind, you're able to localize already where is it likely coming from based on the pain sensitive structures in the head. And you're also able to sort of streamline already what would be my primary impression in differential diagnosis. Okay? All right. Sige, go ahead.
Doc, I will also ask Doc if the the pain progressed from the past year, or it's just
Okay.
the recurrence.
Correct, correct. Okay, that's good. No, so if there is any worsening, no, because he's been experiencing frequent headaches. So if the headache episodes are the same, or if there has been a change in character, that's correct. Okay, okay. Sige, go ahead. May proceed.
So, balik lang tayo sa slide CV. Thank you. For the past medical history, yes, patient tension type headaches, then the patient also self-medicates over the counter analgesics such as paracetamol and ibuprofen, which provide only minimal and temporary relief to the headaches. For he has been a smoker for approximately 7.5 years, an occasional alcohol beverage drinker, and denies any history of illicit drug use. He is currently employed as an IT professional, lives alone in an apartment, and has a mostly sedentary lifestyle, but does aerobic exercises 1 to 2 times per month. And there's no significant family history of neurological disorders. For the review of systems,
Okay, before you go to the review systems back a bit, what else do you want to find out from the past medical history, medications, social history, family history? Any other information that you want?
Doc, I would like to ask the patient po if may times po ba na nagpupuyat po siya. If baka po kasi trigger po yung pagpupuyat sa headache po niya.
All right, that's good. So it's good to ask about the sleep-wake cycle, no, of this patient. It's not mentioned here, or maybe I missed it. What is the occupation of the patient?
IT professional, Doc.
I'm sorry, what's that?
IT professional.
Sorry, I missed it. What is it?
IT po, Doc.
IT professional. Okay. With IT professional, you'd like to ask what would be the working hours? Especially now, it's not unusual, that you have patients come in doing a lot of shift work, especially in the IT profession. Okay. So very important to ask, okay, so anong oras yung work hours mo? Graveyard shift ba yan? Or you maintain the usual work hours? No? That's one. Number two, you ask about the diet of the patient. Very important. I don't think they covered it here in the history. Very important to ask how his eating habits are. That's one. Third is sleep-wake cycle. No? So, baka may ibang activities pa siya. Kung hindi naman siya graveyard shift, if he does regular office work, baka in the evening, does he like doing video games, any other extracurricular activities that may be contributory to his headache episodes. Next is in terms of medications, um, it was only mentioned here that he was taking paracetamol and ibuprofen. As a matter of um, practice, it would be good when you do your examination and history taking in the clinics already. You also ask about supplements. If there have been any new supplements being taken or herbal medications, especially in the Philippines where intake of herbal medications is very popular. No? But when you get it from the history, kasi when you ask the patient, when you ask, ano iniinom niyo pong mga medicine? No? Because they don't consider herbal medicines as actual medicines, sometimes they miss out. No? They don't tell you. So you have to specifically and explicitly ask, meron po kayong iniinom ng mga herbal na gamot? Kasi they have some active components that may be contributory also to the complaints of your patient. Okay? Sige, go ahead.
Doc, I will add also,
Mm.
I will ask regarding the environment since the neighborhood, if maingay po, that may disrupt the sleeping cycle or uh, the cleanliness of the neighborhood. Like, are there fumes or toxic na
Mm.
fumes po that may add or trigger some headaches na na-feel po na feel ng patient?
Okay, so mga toxic exposures, that's correct. Okay, that's good. Okay, go ahead.
So for the review of systems, it was unremarkable as seen with no concerning findings for the skin, HENT, respiratory, cardiovascular, GI, genital, urinary, CNS, and musculoskeletal systems. This is important to check for any red flags that would warrant further investigation aside from the chief complaint.
For the physical exam, his vital signs are blood pressure is 120/70 and normal vital signs. For the ENT, anicteric sclerae, pink, palpebral conjunctivae, dry lips, and oral mucosa, no tonsillo-pharyngeal congestion, and non-distended neck veins, no cervical lymphadenopathies. And for pulmonary, there is an equal chest expansion, no retractions, clear breath sounds. And for the cardiovascular, adynamic precordium, normal rate, and regular rhythm, distinct S1 and S2, no murmurs, PMI is at the third intercostal space, midclavicular line, and there's no carotid bruit. For the abdomen, there are no visible lesions, no tenderness, normal active bowel sounds on all quadrants, and for the extremities, moist skin, no skin lesions, and full equal peripheral pulses and no edema.
Okay, before you go into the neurologic exam, backtrack, yes. What other physical exam maneuvers will you do, or what other portions have been missed out here? If you're thinking headache, what other, kasi this is just a template type of physical exam. But what other tests or what will you look for when you're examining a patient with headache? No? Ano pa yung gagawin ninyo? That's not really mentioned here. That should have been done.
Maybe doc, additional head and neck examination.
Like what?
It could be inspection, palpation. Besides, kasi po the other head and neck examinations are also covered na rin sa neurological exam. Pero on top of my mind po, probably inspection and palpation.
Yeah, inspection and palpation of what? Of what specific portion of the head and neck?
Doc, if I'll try po.
Yeah, okay.
Baka po pwede i-palpate po yung mga paranasal sinuses po. Kasi po baka yun yung cause ng headache.
Correct. So always, no, when a patient comes in for headache, no, you try and see if there is tenderness, no, on pressure ng sinuses, frontal and maxillary. No, you even check the mastoids, no, mastoids of your patient, and put some pressure, no, and see whether, because a patient, if there is no sinusitis, no, if there is no inflammation or infection in that area, the patient should only be feeling the pressure. But if you apply pressure, no, dun sa location of frontal and maxillary sinuses, and makikita nyo, if there is really pain talaga, parang iigtad yung patient, no, the patient will really show it, no, will grimace, no. So that should be routine, no? When you're seeing patients with headache, you try to elicit, no, if there is tenderness of the sinuses, if there is tenderness of the mastoids. Even also doing the otoscopy is important, no? You visualize, no, silipin ninyo yung tenga, no? Any problems, no, any fullness on that side, no? There are infections in the ear, that may trigger headache as well for your patient, no? So very important that you are able to do that. Also for elderly patients whom you're suspecting of temporal arteritis, you also palpate the temporal region and see whether you are able to elicit pain, and if you feel the pulsating arteries, no, and if there is localized pain in that side, that will give you a clue na baka temporal arteritis. So no, so very important yan, ha. So it's not covered here in the physical examination, but that's very important to actually examine. All right? Okay. Sige, proceed.
For the neuro exam, it is essentially unremarkable, but the mental status examination, the patient is awake with good regard, hair is well kept, and he is dressed appropriately according to age. He has a euthemic mood with appropriate effect. Frontal, good insight, judgment, and fond of knowledge, good concentration and attention. Temporal, oriented to time, place, and person, intact, immediate, recent, and remote memory. Parietal, no right to left disorientation, no acalculia. Acalculia, no agraphia, no finger agnosia, no neglect, no body part agnosia, no constructural ideomotor and dressing apraxia. Occipital, able to identify colors, objects, and familiar faces. Next slide. For the cranial nerves, it is also normal for the CN1, able to identify substance in both nostrils, CN2, no visual field cuts, fundoscopy, positive red-orange reflex, sharp disc margins, 1-3 cup disc ratio, AB ratio 2-3, no exudates or hemorrhage on both eyes. CN2 and CN3 pupils 3 millimeters, briskly reactive to light on both eyes. intact, direct, and consensual reflexes. CN3, 4, and 6, full extraocular eye movements. CN5, intact V1 to V3 with good temporalis and masseter tone. CN7, no facial asymmetry. CN8, intact gross hearing. Weber test at midline. Renay test, air conduction more than bone conduction. CN9 and 10, intact gag, equal palatal rise, uvula midline. CN11, good sternocleidomastoid tone bilaterally. CN12, tongue midline, no atrophy or fasciculations. Next slide. For the motor and sensory, there is good muscle bulk and tone, no spasticity. The motor strength is spontaneous movements of all extremities with no preferential movements or laterality noted. For the sensory, 100% intact and equal to pain, temperature, and crude touch. Intact vibratory and position sense of both lower extremities. For the muscle strength reflexes, they are essentially normal with 2+. For biceps, triceps, brachioradialis, patellar, and ankle. Next slide. For the cerebellar exam, no nystagmus, no dysmetria on finger-to-nose test and on heel-to-shin test, no dysdiadochenesia. Pathologic reflexes, no ankle clonus, no Hoffman's sign, no Babinski sign. Meninges, no knuckle rigidity, no Brodzinski sign, and no Kernig sign. Next slide.
Okay, sorry. Fact check tayo. I forgot to mention another one that was missed. Anong kulang dun sa physical exam pa? Go back to the PE. Ano pa yung kulang? What else do you need to check? Which is a common source of headache. So you check for trigger points, no? Sa neck. You ask the patient to move his neck muna, no? Left, right, up, down. You check for any limitation, any pain, no? While you ask the patient to move his neck and his head, no, try to palpate, no, and try to see if there are trigger points in the shoulder, in the neck, no? Kasi that would be one of the more common causes now of a headache, especially with the lifestyle that we have. We're always on our computers, on our phone, no? Lagi tayong nakatungo, no? So the patient, it's not unusual to have a cervicogenic component to the headache, no? Sometimes you get patients who's coming in for headache, but the cause of the headache is not only coming from one etiology, but it could be a mixed type of headache. And more often than not, there is almost always a cervicogenic component. So check nyo, no? So check for trigger points. Minsan hawakan nyo pa lang, no? You palpate lang and you palpate the trapezius and you're able to see sobrang tigas, no? Nung shoulders, no? Yung neck, yung paracervical muscles, you try and palpate and see. Minsan sobrang tigas. Kita nyo na yung tension, no? Just by observing and palpating. So very important because I think the physical exam given to you is sort of just like a template exam, no? Very important for headache, no? If meron kayong gagawin, no, na examination, it would be those important. Always check for the paranasal mastoids, check the ear, no, visualize, no, and try to elicit for any point tenderness. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Next slide na lang. Ayan. So for the cranial MRI with contrast, the MRI with contrast reveals that there are no abnormalities in the brain structure, it ruling out secondary causes of headache. The brain vasculature appears normal, and there are no signs of ischemic or hemorrhagic events. Next slide. Furthermore, as seen in our routine EEG, is that the posterior background activity has 8 to 9 Hz alpha activity with good reactivity. No focal slowing or epileptiform discharges seen. This is a normal routine EEG in a wakeful stage, done in wakefulness and sleep for age. That's it for the imaging.
So now we move on to the neurological localization of the patient's symptoms. So the patient presented with severe throbbing headache episodes unilaterally on the right side. So these episodes may be attributed to a sensitized trigeminal vascular system influenced by several neuropeptides, including CGRP or calcitonin gene-related peptides. So additionally, a dysfunctional trigeminal vascular system may contribute to these episodes as well. So often they may triggered by various factors, and one of those are environmental factors. So in this case, the identified triggers include physical activity, stress, and prolonged screen time at work. So the trigeminal vascular system, to give you an overview, has components in both the peripheral and central nervous system. So peripherally, the trigeminal ganglion relays nociceptive input from the pain-sensitive structures. And you can see here you have your meningeal nerves and vessels. So it relays it to the central nervous system. So centrally, the trigeminal cervical complex receives this input from the trigeminal ganglion and transmits it to the cortex via the thalamus, which results in the perception of pain. So therefore, the headaches experienced by the patient does not originate from the brain parenchyma itself, but from the surrounding pain-sensitive structures, which I have mentioned, includes the meningeal nerves and vessels within the cranium. So in the next slide, so the patient headache episodes were preceded by an aura characterized by flashing lights and zigzag lines. So this aura may be attributed to cortical spreading depression, or CSD, which is a large, slow-moving wave of depolarization that spreads across the gray matter and transiently inhibits cortical activity. So as a result, certain changes occur in synaptic activity, extracellular concentrations, cerebral blood flow, and metabolism. And in this case, the cortical spreading depression involves the occipital lobe, particularly the primary visual cortex, or your BA17.
Next slide, please. Okay. So there may also be, oh, di na-edit pala yung slide, sorry. But there may be also a functional involvement of the brainstem and the thalamus due to the patient reporting nausea, photophobia, and phonophobia. During a migraine attack, there may be an aberrant activation via neurotransmitters, for example, of these structures, even though there are no structural pathologies. For example, the dorsal raphe nucleus, and which is involved in pain modulation, may become dysfunctional. Altered serotonin may lower the threshold for the migraine initiation, and it may contribute also to the central sensitization, which increases the sensitivity to light, sound, and pain. For the periaqueductal gray, which activates endogenous opioids to inhibit pain transmission, the dysfunction may lead to reduced suppression of the initial trigeminal pain input. The involvement of the nucleus tractus solitarius and area postrema of the medulla may further explain the patient's nausea, as these areas are involved in processing sensory information and induction of nausea and vomiting. The thalamus, if it was hyperresponsive, can also show why there is a sensory hypersensitivity, which includes again the photophobia and phonophobia. This may also amplify pain signals from the trigeminal vascular system. The involvement of these structures may be visualized and confirmed via a functional MRI, which was not done to the patient. Next slide. Instead, next slide, please. Oh, hindi din na-edit pala yung slide nito. I included again here dapat uh the pictures of the MRI and the EEG, but the MRI was only the structural MRI, functional MRI done to the patient. So what we can deduce from that is that there's no deeper brain structure or severe damage involvement. So this means that ES symptoms or the patient's symptoms are not from a tumor or a stroke, nor from epilepsy or seizure activity.
Next slide na. Next
Wait
slide,
lang,
please.
wait lang, sorry.
Slide.
Refresh ko lang yung slides.
Okay. So again, a summary lang, starting with the uh, previous slide. Ayun, summary lang, starting with the aura symptoms that would begin coming from the cortical spreading depression. Then it starts from the occipital cortex nga and spreads across the cortex. And then this activates the trigeminal vascular system that initiates the migraine pain that would then activate the meningeal nociceptors. So yung neuropeptides and pro-inflammatory neurotransmitters such as in CGRP, neurokinin A, and substance P are released, which these neurons innervate yung dura mater and meningeal blood vessels. So these results to yung neurologic inflammation in the primary pain nerve endings of the head, overlying the leptomeningeus, arteries, and nasal sinuses, contributing to the pain. So then after that, the trigeminal afferents would trigger yung central mechanism being yung trigeminal cervical complex that relays the pain signals to the thalamus, which then transmits the pain to the somatosensory cortex, leading to the pain perception or the headache. Then the brainstem centers that would modulate the pain are the periaqueduct gray, locus circuitous, dorsal raphe nucleus, and yun, nucleus raphe manuus. So these nuclei interact to form the descending modulatory network that can either inhibit or enhance yung pain. So next slide na please.
Okay, so moving on to the primary impression. So here we can see the summary of the patient presentation. A patient presents with recurrent right-sided throbbing headaches lasting for 72 hours and is aggravated by physical activity, accompanied with nausea and sensitivity to light, sound, and smell. So these features point to migraine and has been reiterated several times before. So next slide. So according to Adams and Victor's principles of neurology, migraine is typically unilateral, pulsating headache, often accompanied by photophobia, phonophobia, and osmophobia. So this is basically rephrasing of the initial symptoms. And this is worsened by movement, as these are hallmark features which helps it distinguish from other headache types. So here we can see the two different types of headaches. One with aura or classic, and the other one is without aura. is common migraine. So for this case, the patient's symptom progression supports a diagnosis of migraine with aura. So next slide. So to further define this, migraine with aura is defined by neurological symptoms called aura that precede the headache phase. So most commonly, visual aura described as here we have the scintillating scotomas, which are shimmering blind spots, as well as the Cecropia or fortification spectra, which was described specifically in this case as the zigzag or dazzling lines. So these visual disturbances are typically brief and last less than 30 minutes. And as this aura resolves, unilateral throbbing headache follows, which gradually intensifies. So these attacks, also mentioned in the case, also often occur after periods of stress. Next slide. So here, we have the primary impression, as mentioned earlier, migraine with aura, and these are all consistent with the criteria for IHCD, and we have here in bold letters specific for this case. So we have the unilateral, usually on the right side, pain lasting for 20 minutes. There are visual disturbances or zigzag lines followed by headache. So these are all consistent with our primary impression, which is migraine with aura. Next slide.
Next we are in the differential diagnostics part. For our first differential, we considered brain tumor due to the fact that brain tumor and migraine with aura both have the the symptom of physical activity and changes in head position that can provoke the pain. They're also unilateral in nature and may cause nausea and vomiting. And this pain can last for minutes to hours. However, we are to rule out this disease since this pain is usually deep-seated and non-throbbing and is described as aching or bursting, which is contrary to what the patient said is throbbing headache. This condition is also associated with transient blindness, leg weakness causing drop attacks, and loss of consciousness, which are all negative in the patient's case.
So for a following, you can also consider the tension type of headache because the answer of question tension type headache in the past. It can also be triggered by stress, similar to a migraine. We can correlate this with the patient's sedentary occupation, such as having poor posture and screen overuse as an IT professional. And also the patient has a normal neurologic exam, similar to a migraine. But it's less likely because the tension type of headache is typically bilateral, which is not the case of our patient who presents with a unilateral throbbing type of headache. And tension type of headache is also less likely to have nausea, photophobia, or phonophobia. And also the TTH doesn't have aura or other visual disturbances.
Another differential is medication overuse headache, which is the type of headache that arises due to frequent intake of medications. Reasons for rule-in include a pre-existing history of headaches, specifically tension-type headaches in the past, which may have prompted the patient to self-medicate with analgesics such as paracetamol and ibuprofen. This could lead to a loop of the headache being caused by the medication despite providing temporary relief. We can rule this out as medication overuse headache typically causes a dull pressure-like sensation over the entire head, so it's bilateral. There's also no report of decreased responsiveness to the medication over time, and there was no mention of rebound headaches after medication use. Next slide, please.
So now we proceed to the diagnostic workup. So there is no specific diagnostic test available for migraine. The diagnosis of acute migraine can often be established through history taking and physical examination alone. However, additional tests may be considered when indicated. CBCESR and CRP are useful if there is concern for infection or inflammation, particularly in older patients. Thyroid panel when symptoms may overlap with endocrine disorders. Glucose and electrolytes, especially relevant in patients with altered consciousness, sorry. Vitamin B12, folate, and homocysteine considered in patients with aura and increased stroke risk. In this case, neuroimaging and EEG were performed to rule out other possible causes such as intracranial mass or epilepsy, thereby strengthening the diagnosis of migraine. And further testing is unnecessary in patients who are stable and clearly meet the diagnostic criteria.
For the treatment of our patient who is diagnosed with migraine with aura, the management approach includes three main components, which is the acute therapy, prophylactic therapy, and non-pharmacologic measures. So first, for the acute therapy, we aim to relieve symptoms during the headache attack. So since over-the-counter medications like paracetamol and ibuprofen have provided only minimal relief in the patient, so migraine-specific therapy is warranted. So we recommend initiating sumatriptan 50 to 100 mg orally at the onset of the headache, but not during the aura phase due to the risk of vasoconstriction. For severe or rapid progression attacks, alternative would be 20 mg intranasal spray or 6 mg subcutaneous injection can be used. To manage associated nausea and enhance drug absorption, we recommend metoclopramide 10 mg orally or intravenous. Importantly, the use of acute medication should be limited to fewer than 10 days per month to avoid medication overuse headaches. So next slide. For prophylactic or preventive therapy, it is indicated in our patient due to the recurrent and disabling nature of his migraines, as well as inadequate response to acute treatment. So several options will be considered: propranolol, a beta blocker, 40 to 120 mg twice daily, amitriptyline, tricyclic antidepressants, 10 to 75 mg at bedtime, which may be specifically helpful if the patient has poor sleep or low mood. Topiramate, an anticonvulsant, 25 to 200 mg per day. Flunarizine, a calcium channel blocker, 5 to 15 mg. And for refractory or chronic migraine cases, CGRP antagonist like erenumab given via monthly subcutaneous injection will also be considered. Next slide. So lastly, for the non-pharmacologic measures, it is crucial in reducing attack frequency and improving the quality of life, which includes maintaining a headache diary to identify and avoid triggers, practice stress reduction techniques such as meditation and yoga, ensure adequate sleep and regular meal schedule and hydration, minimize prolonged screen exposure and take frequent breaks at work, and lastly, engage in regular aerobic exercises more than or equal to 3 times a week. Next slide.
For the prognosis, next slide, please. Migraine with aura generally improves over time for many individuals, with reductions in both the frequency and severity of attacks. Long-term outcomes are often favorable, although the course can vary between patients. There are no consistent predictors of who will improve, but many respond well to preventive treatment and lifestyle changes, including maintaining regular sleep schedules, eating balanced meals on time, managing stress, staying hydrated, and avoiding triggers such as caffeine, alcohol, or hormonal contraceptives. Notably, migraine, especially menstrual-related migraine with aura, often decreases in frequency and severity after menopause. However, a subset of individuals may develop chronic migraine, which can lead to ongoing disability and brain changes over time, Chronic migraine may involve persistent attacks and alterations in brain structures and function, making early management crucial. While migraine with aura is associated with slightly increased risk of stroke in certain high-risk groups, overall long-term health outcomes remain reassuring and modifiable when modifiable risk factors are properly addressed through both medical treatment and consistent lifestyle change adjustments.
So, despite it being a benign condition, migraines can be associated with the following complications, including status migrainosus, which is a migraine variant, which is a debilitating attack that lasts more than 72 hours, has a median duration of approximately 5 days, and is more common among females with or without aura. Another is migrainous infarction or stroke, as mentioned earlier, characterized by a patient with migraine with aura, wherein one or more aura symptoms persist for more than an hour, and neuroimaging shows an infarction. So the risk factors include migraine with aura, female patients, patients who smoke, patients taking estrogen-containing contraception, as stated earlier, and patients who are less than 45 years. So this could be due to cerebral, neuronal, vascular, prothrombotic, and cardiac factors. There could also be persistent aura without infarction. So this is when aura symptoms persist for 1 week or more with no evidence of infarction on neuroimaging. There can also be migraine aura triggered seizures, which generally occurs within 1 hour. And finally, some patients may have increased risk of developing psychiatric disorders and cause work disability and loss of productivity. So all this imply the importance of addressing the needs of patients suffering with migraine and providing advice on how to prevent these complications from occurring.
So here are our reference po, and that is all po. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the class? Are there any questions or clarifications? Okay, if you saw this patient no, in your clinic, what other tests would you have requested for? Kasi what was done, diba, was just an imaging study and an EEG, diba? Or would you have approached it the same way? Yes, no, maybe. All of the above, none of the above. Considering all the information, yung profile ng patient, the story, the risk factors of your patient. Or you're happy how he was worked up?
For me po, the diagnostic workups were already sufficient enough po since based on physical exam, wala naman pong um, other manifestations bukod sa headaches si patient po.
Alright. Walang manifestations based on the template that we were given. But because there are things that we did not check for, no, we're not sure if there are other contributory factors. Okay. Like I said, although the way you are taught in clinic is that the symptoms of the patient need to be explained only by one etiology, right? So usually the simplest explanation, a disease entity that would cover or explain all the symptoms of your patient. That is most likely the diagnosis. That's correct. No. But in reality, especially in the clinics, you realize na it's not unusual to have a mixed type of headache. no? Especially with the lifestyle. That's why I was harping on, as alluding to earlier, yung lifestyle ng patient, diba? IT professional, most likely minimum yan 8 hours behind the screen, either doing office work or what have you. Apart from that, our lifestyle now is we're glued to our phones, no, be it for recreation or for work, no. We're always looking down, no? So it's not unusual to have secondary cervicogenic component, no? And you'll realize that when you do your clinics na laging parang may kasama yung cervicogenic component, no? If you don't look for it, you won't find it, no? And you only recognize what you know. So very important that these are little things that you actually look for when you see, when you examine and see these patients in the clinic or at the emergency room, no? So I would have done siguro good to have examined the head and neck, no? Check for the mobility of the neck. I would have done a cervical X-ray at least, no? Check anytime that you see straightening of the cervical spine, that is highly suggestive of severe muscle spasm at the level of the neck, no? And that may be contributory to the headaches of your patient. Okay? So, but looking at the HPI, I agree this is very typical of a primary type of headache. This is migraine with aura. All right. Any questions or clarifications? I will request for the other groups also prepared, tama ba? The other sections also prepared a similar presentation, or only one group was assigned? Okay, I'll verify, no, because I need for the group, at least the one who presented, to email to me your presentation together with a full list of members for assessment and grading. Okay? Any more questions or clarifications? If none, siguro we can end the class here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the group.